Okay, welcome everyone. Let me introduce Eleonora Evi, MEP, that is the president of the interest group Salus, and she will start this meeting on the intergroup Salus and its activities. Eleonora Evi.
Thank you, Federico. Just a very short introduction for the session we are having today of our interest group Salus. First of all, welcome everybody. It's nice to see you, even though still remotely connected, but still it's nice to see you all. Today we would like to discuss the current and future activities of the Salus Interest Group. Just as a small and short remark, following the COVID-19 pandemic, the health of European citizens is increasingly at the center of national and EU policy. However, concrete and effective actions are still lacking to promote healthy lifestyle and environmental sustainability for European citizens. There's still so much to do in this area. COVID-19 is just the tip of the iceberg. It is a strong signal that warns about the need to change course and adopt a new paradigm that makes it possible to place health at the center in the broadest sense of this term. We are convinced that the wrong lifestyles as well as environmental pollution constitute the submerged basis of this iceberg, and that precisely in the name of this inseparable relation between health and daily choices, it is urgent to renew the individual and collective modus vivendi to face the challenges that put the healthy longevity of the European citizens at risk, and find more adequate strategies to deal with the current emergency and those that might occur in the future. These strategies were mapped out by the Salus European Network in the European Manifesto for Healthy Longevity that has been published on 30 of April 2021 and sent to 32 European governments. So I will now leave the floor to Milena Simeoni, naturopath, to discuss strategies and activities of the Salus network. And I wish you all a fruitful discussion.
Thank you, Eleonora, and hello, everyone. Today, my speech aims to encourage more and more politicians to support the Salus project for the development of concrete actions essential to the well-being of the unbreakable bond between man and the environment. Today, more than ever, we need the paradigm shift that the European Salus project has been proposing since its first steps in 2018. A paradigm shift that allows to put health, in the widest sense of the word, at the center of our attention. A paradigm shift that proposes a new way to solve all problems. In this regard, Richard Horton, editor of The Lancet, wrote in September 2020, "We have viewed the cause of the crisis and an infectious disease. All of our interventions have focused on cutting lines of viral transmission, thereby controlling the spread of the pathogen. But what we have learned so far tells us that the story of COVID-19 is not so simple. Two categories of disease are interacting within specific population: infection with severe acute SARS-CoV-2 and an array of non-communicable diseases. COVID-19 is not a pandemic, it is a syndemic. A more nuanced approach is needed if we are to protect the health of our communities. In the case of COVID-19, attacking non-communicable diseases will be prerequisite for successful containment. The economic crisis that is advances toward us will not be solved by a drug or a vaccine. Nothing less than national revival is needed. Approaching COVID-19 as a syndemic will invite a larger vision, one encompassing education, employment, housing, food, and environment. Viewing COVID-19 only as a pandemic excludes such broader but necessary perspectives. However, what are the beliefs of the current paradigm? Are the individual and environment interdependent entities, or are they two separate parts? Is the problem generated by the whole or only by the part that manifests it? Is the problem only a disturbance to be suppressed or also a valuable informant? In order to answer these questions, it is essential to take a step back. Are humans and the environment simple, complicated, or complex systems? The study of etymology comes to our aid. The term complex, from the Latin, woven together, complexere, clearly differs for complicated. From the Latin, with faults, complicare, and from the simple, from the Latin, without faults. Sine plico. Complex systems are more difficult to unfold, precisely because their parts are braided together and interdependent. They are not reducible. They do not show linear relationship of cause-effect. They are scarcely predictable and cannot be repeated. Indeed, the whole is more than the sum of the parts. Our brain is an excellent example of a complex system. Many an environment are complex systems, and to be understood, they need adequate interpretative model, little used by the current paradigm. In the same way that no one would ever think of measuring body temperature with a barometer, even though the barometer is an excellent tool, the reductionist model is not the ideal tool to study complex systems that instead need more systemic approaches. In accordance with said consideration, Salus proposes 3 macro strategies. 1, curative and restorative actions at every level are coupled with and closely linked to health, education, and promotion. 2, actions should always be intersectoral, transversal, and synergistic. 3, strategies should allow economic benefits to be aligned with the common good. The North Karelia project is an exceptionally motivating example concerning the first Salus strategy. In the early 1970s, Finland had the highest mortality rate from cardiovascular diseases in the world. A comprehensive community-based intervention was implemented involving health services, NGOs, industry, media, and public policy. The result was extraordinary. Levels of population risk factors were significantly reduced. The death rate from cardiovascular diseases in the male population age between 30 and 64 years declined from 1970 to 1995 by 73% in North Karelia and 65% across Finland. Subsequently, from 1972 to 2014 by 84%, a result that could have stimulated Europe to proceed in the same direction. Today, more than then, there is a wide scientific documentation on the relationship between lifestyle and health. Let's think, for example, that if Italians ate 30 grams less of processed meat per day, we would avoid 77,000 deaths per year, a good part of which are due to infections. These data were collected from a meta-analysis published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition and from a cohort study published in the BMJ in 2017. However, this increase in protein consumption from the animal kingdom also harms the environment. The Eat Lancet Commission has well documented this relationship. As shown in this graph, there is a strong correlation between meat consumption and greenhouse gas emissions, land use, energy use, acidification potential, and eutrophication potential. It is essential to reverse course and generate virtuous circles capable of sowing the health we want to reap. For example, reducing meat consumption would bring multiple benefits to the entire system, from individual benefit to social and health benefits, from environmental to animal benefits, etc. Trained and congruent professionals are needed in order to facilitate this transition and move from theory to practice. Salus proposes that to integrate the role of the promoter of health and environmental sustainability as a transversal tool capable of supporting a paradigm shift that starts from the bottom. The second Salus strategy moves in this direction and is in line with the recommendation of the WHO Traditional Medicine Strategy 2014-2023. In this perspective, Switzerland in 2009 has integrated complementary medicine into the constitution and has reclaimed the traditional European medicine that has its roots in the value of lifestyle. I teach this discipline in Italy, in Switzerland, and from April 2022 in Serbia. I strongly believe that the European Parliament should be interested in recovering this heritage. The system that regulates individual and environmental health is still heavily influenced by the economic interest of large companies that play dominant roles at the international level. The third Salus macro strategy rewards those who align economic convenience with the common good. A concrete example of this alignment is the experience of some intentional communities. These realities create local contexts of cohabitation, co-working, solidarity relationship, production at 0 kilometer, greater use of renewable energy sources, and good practices for the health of the binomial man-environment. They are examples of circular economy in a holistic vision capable of involving multiple aspects of life. This is the experience of COVID-19 in the intentional community LUMEN. Although the numbers are not sufficient to make a comparison with the general population, the 24 ITER residents or domiciled in the LUMEN eco-village in the 30-59 age range who test positive had no hospitalization. On the other hand, in Italy, positive cases in the same age range had a hospitalization rate of 1 in 23, except for one resident who used iodopovidone and another who used phytotherapy. No one else used drugs. In general, all adopt rest, intestinal cleansing, caloric restriction, and in relation to high fever, fasting. Could the lifestyle develop within the community, healthy eating, movement, meditation, supporting relationship have contributed? Could a good relationship with fever and a greater resilience have made a difference? Did the reduced drug use benefit the environment? What about social health systems? What is certain is that a paradigm shift is needed now. We will close with a metaphor. Each of us is in our own bathroom. The floor is flooded and we are busy collecting the water that continues to rise. We are tired and with buckets and rugs, we continue to try to remove the water from the floor that instead continues to rise. At a certain point, something inside us clicks. We change our point of view. And finally, with dignity and intelligence, we stand up and turn off the taps. We feel if we abandon the antagonistic divide et impera model and embrace the complementary component et collabora model, together we can be the change we want to see in the world. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you, Milena. Thank you so much for this speech, very intensive. And now the floor is to Alberto Donzelli, expert of public health and member of scientific committee of Fondazione Allineare Sanità e Salute. Okay, while we are fixing some technical problems, I would like to remember that after the speeches, there will be a section of question and answers. So if you have some question for the speakers, please, at the end of the speeches, raise your hands in Zoom, and so we can give you the floor. Okay, we can start.
I beg your pardon. This is my speech, my disclosure. As president of the Allineare Sanità e Salute Foundation, I declare that the foundation does not present any conflict of interests, but alignment with the interests of the National Health Service and the health of the community of citizens. And I ask you to verify what declared. What's new in this presentation? It integrates the contrast to the COVID-19 with some strategic proposals so far neglected on concrete measures almost ignored by the media and by the people on how to improve health in general and to strengthen our defenses against infections. The proposed measures are empowering. They do not focus on the minority of patients with serious infection in progress, but they focus on the majority of the uninfected or mildly infected persons in order to remain so. How to strengthen our defenses against infections and general health conditions. Many studies show that older people with common chronic diseases are at increased risk of serious and fatal COVID-19 infections. Knowing it is important to protect them, but apart from hygienic and social distancing measures, they must receive empowering indications about what these elderly people and caregivers can do to quickly reduce their specific risks. A question, okay, what else can I do? This may include changes in risky lifestyles not easily achieved in some cases, for example, tobacco smoke, obesity, but in other cases, potentially got in short times by informed and motivated people, a healthy diet, more physical activity. Other measures quick to implement in agreement with the general practitioner include common drugs which could reduce or increase the risk and be prescribed or, on the contrary, prescribed with benefits for general health. Strengthening natural personal defenses is still a key strategy valid for all pathogenic germs in the present and in the future. The power of lifestyle can work to improve the biological age. I will analyze important individual risk factors documenting their association with both infectious diseases and their severity. Both with total mortality, the most important indisputable outcome, whose reduction already justifies the proposed intervention. Tobacco smoking is the greater health risk factors in Italy and all over the world. There is also estimated mortality due to passive smoking. Smokers have also more serious and frequent infections, influenzas, meningococcal disease, pneumococcal pneumonia. The different smoking history between men and women in the elderly may contribute to explain the lower COVID-19 mortality in women. Two systematic reviews show plus 40% of severe COVID-19 symptoms in smokers and an approximate doubling of the risk of severe symptoms and of intensive care admissions. Effect of physical inactivity is very strong on life expectancy. In Italy, an official estimate is that nearly 15% of total mortality is due to physical inactivity. Physical activity reduces specifically the mortality from infectious diseases. For instance, jogging was associated with about 40% total mortality reduction, with even greater effect on deaths from infectious diseases. Strenuous exercise, however, can be harmful temporarily reducing the immune defenses as well as favoring the descent of pathogens into the lung alveoli. Many researchers have shown that moderate physical exercise strengthens the immune defenses, counteract immunosenescence, reduces respiratory infections and their severity and duration. The optimal intensity for jogging is light jogger to reduce the mortality and put it in its nadir. The right intensity for jogging is the pace perfect for everybody. Intervention, everyone can improve his or her immune system, even in the short terms, thanks to a regular physical activity based on his her health and personal preferences, taking advantage of opportunities to move on foot, by bicycle, or with other enjoyed activities. Even in if further lockdowns, there is an opportunity to practice physical activity in accordance with health status and personal preferences. Diet, various eating patterns can favor or counteract the inflammation associated with aging. The following food groups have shown evidence to influence all-cause and infectious disease mortality. Whole grains and dietary fiber are strongly correlated, and all-cause and cause-specific mortality was explored in a systematic review and dose response meta-analysis with these results. All-cause mortality, you can see that with 220 grams a day of whole grain, the total mortality risk can be reduced in the whole population by 30%. And even for infectious diseases, there is a strong effect only with 50 grams of whole grains, equivalent to 2 slices of whole grain bread, for example. Nut consumption is another important tool. Mortality in a systematic review and dose response meta-analysis of prospective studies was reduced with a daily consumption of 25 grams of nuts by 25%. No drug has a similar potential for the entire population. 25 grams are 5 walnuts or some more almonds or pistachios. We use a few additional weapons against infections. A daily portion of nuts is associated to a greater reduction of infectious diseases and deaths, 4 times a reduction with 28 grams a day of nuts in general. Fruit and vegetable are associated to with a reduction in all-cause mortality in a systematic review and dose response meta-analysis of prospective studies. You can see that all-cause mortality per 200 grams a day of fruit is and vegetables is reduced by a significant 10%. And all-cause mortality with in a dose response analysis with 800 grams a day of fruit and vegetables can be reduced about of 30%. even for infectious diseases, there is a documented benefit of a high consumption of fruit and vegetables. Nutrients with special properties are, for example, citrus fruits and asparagine. Asparagine is especially localized in the peel and in the white part of the citrus fruits. And asparagine is able to inhibit the enzymatic activity of coronavirus protease, with a theoretical effect also in the plasma if a subject eats many citrus fruits. The effect of citrus fruits on total mortality is not significant, with a small little benefit between 50 and 100 grams per day. Therefore, it does not seem useful to drink large quantities of juices. It would be better to eat the whole fruit without removing the white albedo, rich in asparagine, better from organic crops, eating also the peel. T, an umbrella review of meta-analysis of observational studies about tear health showed that with respect to all-cause mortality, there is an association with a dose effect, minus 24% in deaths, highest with 3 cups a day, becoming null or unfavorable with more than 5 cups a day. This was confirmed both for green and for black tea. The laboratory effect of T catechins shows inhibition of the influenza virus uptake, suppression of replication, and also efficacy against cold virus. Green tea with gargles or catechins assumed as integration can reduce the incidence of influenza in 4 clinical trials. The aforementioned computer study showed that catechins' efficacy against the coronavirus, particularly via epigallocatechin gallate, is a substance abundant in green tea, but present in all teas, is very useful. Nutrients with proven therapeutics properties, also against COVID-19, are, for example, curcumin. It is a food and with a content of 10% in curcumin, very effective against a large number of viruses, and with a proven effect also with also against COVID-19. We can see that there are 9 curcumin studies, with 8 of which are randomized clinical studies, and the mortality benefit was very large in the early treatment, and 84% improvement in respect of mortality. And also in hospitalized patients, there was an improvement in mortality with on top of current therapies and use of curcumin. Better with a small 2-3 grams of piperine contained in black pepper. You can see also the benefits of Nigella sativa. It is black seed, black cumin. Also, Nigella sativa is able in treatment to reduce in early treatment by 84% the whole mortality. Also, quercetin in COVID-19 shows some efficacy in some trials. In some foods, it is contained in capers, in dill, in red onion, or can be taken as a quercetin phytosome as integrator. Red and processed meat are a risk factor in a huge systematic review with pooled analysis of cohort prospective studies. There is an additional risk with any additional portion of 100 grams per day of red meat and the total mortality plus 10%. Any additional portion of 50 grams per day of processed meat increase the all-cause mortality risk by 23%, with stronger association in United States than in Europe. There is also an association with deaths from infections. We can see in this very large prospective study of the retirees followed by 16 years that there is not only an increase in all-cause deaths, but also in diabetes deaths, in liver disease deaths, and in infections deaths. Concluding, even common drugs can increase or reduce the risk or improve or worsen the course of COVID-19. Exploring these associations should be a priority, allowing alternatives, prescriptions or deprescriptions or substitutions to be offered promptly. To date, only a few associations have been in deep explored. I will mention here only the analgesic antipyretic paracetamol. This is a health education pill of the one produced by our foundation on this argument. Fever is one of the most effective defenses mechanisms against infections, making all our natural defenses work at their best. It would be enough to consider that a mechanism preserved in the evolutionary history, starting from bony fishes, amphibians, birds, and mammals, must have played a crucial role for survival. Paracetamol, despite the widespread but unproven practice of treating fever, seems rational not to be used to suppress fever, at least in the first decisive days. Moreover, paracetamol induced a glutathione consumption, and glutathione can be important to counteract peroxides formed in infectious diseases and for by the oxygen metabolism in mitochondria. An excess of paracetamol can consume glutathione and deplete the cell's antioxidant defenses when more needed. In conclusion, we are grateful to our family physician who explained us the importance of respecting the fiber. This is the rule, leaving to his competence and autonomy to suggest eventual or partial exceptions to this rule. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alberto Donzelli, for this speech. Now this is the last speech. I will show you some of the principal activities of European Network Salus. And I want to remember that the European Network Salus is composed by 44 organizations in 11 European countries. And that we have started in 2019. And so we are still growing as a network. And LUMEN is the leader of this network. And so I will present now some of the activities that we are realizing in this period. In order to realize the paradigm shift that Milena Simeoni and Alberto Donzelli spoke about, we have elaborated some proposals that represent concrete solutions to the health and environmental crisis. One of these is the proposal of a new European profession we call the Health and Sustainability Promoter, HSP. The HSP has the aim of educating and promoting healthy, conscious, and sustainable lifestyles. Sustainable in an environmental, but also in an economical way. The HSP works through communication, interpersonal, motivational, and empowerment skills. Its training is based on traditional European and Mediterranean philosophies and knowledge, as Milena Simeoni said, combined with the latest scientific knowledge on health and environmental sustainability. The qualification can be acquired by citizens with compulsory education, and in particular can be acquired by all those existing professionals recognized by national law or not, who deal with health, well-being, environmental sustainability, and development of human potential. What is important for us with this proposal? This innovative profession would strengthen the integration of the reductionist approach with the holistic and synergistic one. So the paradigm shift that we spoke about before. And as we can see in some member states, the integration of transversal competencies in certain therapeutic paths can improve the cost effectiveness, increase the ability to overcome the disease, reduce the side effects of conventional treatment, help to maintain a positive attitude towards the future and good coping skills, reduce the environmental impact of therapeutic paths. Another important aspect is this new profession can also foster new jobs for young graduates. In a context where health promotion is increasingly becoming an opportunity for the future to make health system more sustainable and resilient in the face of current and future challenges. And then it also guarantees a European regulatory framework for the many holistic professions that today are often poorly recognized and still see many regulatory differences between one member state and another. And in conclusion, in Europe, an increasing number of EU citizens are opting for CAM, complementary and alternative medicine, to complement or treat their diseases. The European Commission estimates that consumer spending on CAM is almost 100 million euros. It would be more equitable to recognize an economic reimbursement for services that concerns the promotion of health, and that many European citizens are now paying exclusively from their own pocket. Okay. So we have written a proposal for a European citizen initiative that will be submitted to the Petty Commission, and then we will begin to gather support from the many citizens who are interested in this proposal and the many professionals, nearly 300,000 according to Cambrella project data, who could acquire this new profession, this new qualification. Okay, this is the first proposal. Now, there is another proposal that we have started in September. This is a randomized and controlled study on the efficacy of naturopathy in migraine prophylaxis. We know that promoting a real integration and collaboration between traditional and complementary medicine and conventional medicine requires scientific evidence to support new therapeutic protocols that provide the figure of the naturopath alongside the doctor in the prevention and treatment of diseases. So it is strategic to move into research as well. We launched, as I said, in September of this year, a randomized control trial with a public hospital in northern Italy. We know that migraine affects almost 25% of women of childbearing age, and it is classified according to the WHO in second place among the disabling diseases. The study intends to enroll The study intends to enroll 84 women aged between 18 and 65, diagnosed with migraine in both episodic and chronic form. Half will experience a naturopathic protocol consisting of holistic analysis of traditional and complementary medicine, moderate physical activity, adherence to a plant-based diet according to the principle of the traditional Mediterranean diet, meditation, and yoga. Each protocol will last 6 months and will evaluate the result in terms of reduction of migraine days, reduction of pain, reduction of drug use, increase in well-being, and other minor indicators. The study has characteristics of ethics. In fact, at the end of the study, the control group will also benefit from the naturopathic protocol. Ecology, the study indicates a lower consumption of animal protein and a lower consumption of drugs, and also innovation. There are a few studies of this kind at the international level. Normally, they are limited to verifying the effectiveness of a specific product and not the functioning of an holistic naturopathic product. So this is the very innovative aspect of this study. The research has a value about 160,000 euros that we are raising through sponsor and donations, and with the collaboration of a lot of volunteers. This is only the first research project by the Salus Network, because we have other research in preparation, and above all, we are planning a European research center Salus, inside a large historical estate in Mugello. Mugello is a wooden area near Florence, very beautiful inside a naturalistic context. It will be centered on health promotion and environmental sustainability, bringing scientific evidence and operational proposal to support these very important and related issues. Then another proposal is to foster sustainable innovation. The change envisioned by the Green New Deal should, in our view, have a strong component of concreteness and foresight, avoiding as much as possible the support of greenwashing actions. This can be guaranteed by supporting local organizations, both historical and emerging, that are building from the bottom a change toward a solidarity and carbon-free economy, stronger and more resilient social relations, a circular economy that closes cycles in harmony with nature, sustainable and ethical lifestyles. In this month, we are collaborating with ECOLIS, the European Network for Community-Led Initiative on Climate Change and Sustainability, and with the Global Eco-Village Network Europe, at the regional level of a global association of people and communities dedicated to a more sustainable living by restoring land and adding more to the environment that is taken. The common aim is to bring a framework of proposal to the European Commission on the topic of sustainable innovation, to facilitate companies, cities, intentional communities and eco-villages, transition towns and permaculture networks to develop, implement, test, describe, and disseminate innovative technologies, systems, and practices that supports the transition sought by the EU Green New Deal. Among these, as the Salus Network, we have created a law for the legal recognition of intentional communities, which was presented in the Italian Parliament at the end of 2020, and it's starting its approval process. This law would represent a novelty for in the European panorama. An intentional community, often called the eco-village, as LUMEN is an eco-village, Milena spoke about this, is a group of people who decided to live and work together for a common good, inspired by the values of environmental sustainability, health in an holistic sense, and solidarity. Often they settle in abandoned areas, in marginal or urban areas, which they restore and return to the use of the community. The proposal the proposal of law aims to simplify the birth and growth of these communities, which are constantly growing just now and which often have to use different legal forms to be able to achieve their goals. For instance, association, cooperatives, foundations, committees, and etc. The other aspect is to foster the collaboration of this experience of bottom-up change with local authorities, to encourage the creation of intentional communities within abandoned public buildings. In Italy, we have a lot of these abandoned public buildings, I think also in other European countries, such as schools, barracks, railway station, etc. And then to encourage the experimentation in a controlled local context of sustainable innovation in terms, for example, of waste and recycling processes, energy production and consumption, and the use of innovative construction materials. We know, for instance, that there is a positive experience in the Netherlands, that is the Dutch Crisis and Recovery Act of 2010. And it was very inspiring, this Dutch law. And we think that it can be very useful to extend also to other European countries and member states. In conclusion, and now, so we are gathering signatures to make pressure on members of Italian Parliament in order to accelerate the approval process. And we are collaborating with Gen Europe also to discussing other possible proposals in other member states, because this is a competence, obviously, of member states. The last one is InfoSalus 2022. InfoSalus is an information and training initiative aimed at disseminating scientifically valid and philosophically solid information at the service of health promotion for a healthier, longer-lived and sustainable Europe. InfoSalus was in Italy in March 2020 on the occasion of the first COVID lockdown, and in collaboration with the liaison office of European Parliament in Milan. 13 online conferences in Italian with 6 expert speakers on medicine and naturopathy. But for the next year, InfoSalus will have some new features. It will be a series of 7 webinars with the possibility of interaction of the participants in Italian language, but with English subtitle, aimed at doctor and holistic practitioners, with a simplified version called Salus Café, aimed at citizens, and it will be realized in collaboration with health institutions. So InfoSalus takes the stimulus of institutional programs such as EU for Health program, which with the objective of contributing to make European health system more resilient and sustainable, foster integration between health practitioner and holistic practitioner who promote health, improve the empowerment of European citizens toward their own health. Thank you very much for your attention. Obviously, we will take you update on these activities in the next month. Thank you so much. Now, the speeches are ending. So if there is someone that wants to make some question to the speakers, this is the moment. Sabine?
Yes, many thanks for this interesting presentation and all the presentators. I was wondering if Professor Donzelli is aware of some very practical health promotion programs you can launch at the workplace.
Mi riformula la domanda in italiano, ringrazio.
Chiede se ci sono delle proposte pratiche che possono essere, di quelle che tu hai parlato, che possono essere portate a un livello aziendale nel contesto, per esempio, del Parlamento europeo, dove lei lavora.
Certo. Oltre alle proposte relative alla prevenzione primaria che ho illustrato, mi sembra di particolare urgenza affrontare il tema della terapia di documentata efficacia, perché io ho compilato, ve ne ho mostrati alcuni.
Alberto, scusami, facciamo una traduzione simultanea, per cui chiedo a Elka se può iniziare a tradurre la prima parte della tua risposta.
Ok.
We have translation now.
Scusa, Alberto, puoi ripetere?
Sì, niente, oltre alla prevenzione primaria,
Other than primary prevention,
ci sono le terapie di ragionevole efficacia che
there are like the therapies of reasonable efficacy.
Effectiveness, cioè queste terapie sono state selezionate con alcuni criteri che
This therapy were selected with some criteria.
Che sono: uno, avere dei trial randomizzati controllati a favore.
One, first, they had like some randomized clinical trials in favor of the therapies.
Due, avere studi osservazionali di rango inferiore, ma pure favorevoli, coerenti con i trial.
Second, they had an observational trial that they are less in importance, but still they were coherent with the trials.
Tre, essere assolutamente sicure.
Third, they needed to be for sure safe.
4, essere altamente economiche, con un costo-opportunità molto favorevole.
4, they had to be extremely economics and the cost opportunity cost had to be favorable.
Cosa che molto interessante per la comunità. Pensiamo che il Molnupiravir costa 700 euro per ottenere un 30% di riduzione dei danni.
This is really interesting for the community. We have to think about Molnupiravir that costs 700 euros, and to obtain just a reduction of 30% of damages.
Mentre chi volesse utilizzare iodopovidone, curcumina come alimento, piuttosto che melatonina, non spende quasi nulla e ha dei benefici in base agli studi qui disponibili superiori.
Instead, if somebody wants to use, for example, curcumin, melatonin, iodopovidone, and they have huge benefits with little cost. Yes. And major, like they have bigger benefits than Molnupiravir. Yeah.
Altri due criteri sono la plausibilità biologica, biological plausibility, and do not have a great conflict of interest with a commercial sponsor, and do not have the researchers with financial relationships with a commercial sponsor, with important conflict of interest of commercial interest.
Posso, Federico, dire una cosa?
Puoi parlare di step perché stavo per
esatto.
dirlo.
Allora vai tu.
Lo dico
vai.
direttamente.
Sì,
Ok.
vai.
Okay, I would like to add another information. We made a project called the LISTEP, especially designed for the European Parliament, and in particular for the canteen of the European Parliament.
Oh, really?
That we tested personally. And so we presented to the budget some budget calls, but we are very interested in collaborating with the European Parliament and discussing this project with some also technical experts. So if you would like to start a discussion about it, I can send you this project and we can start a discussion, and we can try to see if there can be a collaboration in implementing this important project that is not only for the canteen, but involved also a lot of different lifestyles that, as we see, they are very important to promote among the all the people that are living in the European Parliament. So from the MEPs to the workers.
We should lead by example, huh?
Era uno degli obiettivi era esattamente quello che dice l'eurodeputata ed era
one of the objectives is exactly what you say about leading with example.
Fare un'esperienza concreta motiva i decisori ad agire in modo efficace in una precisa direzione.
So making a concrete experience will motivate the decision maker in a certain direction. So you have actually to experience the thing to support it.
Siamo convinti che solo chi è può fare la differenza.
We are convinced that just who actually is can make the difference. So you have to incarnate the
Che non è la
experience.
teoria,
It's not the theory,
ma l'esperienza.
but the experience.
O perlomeno la teoria non è sufficiente.
At least like we can say that theory is not sufficient. Like
È poco convincente.
Yes, it's not really convincing. You need to experience it actually.
Il dottor Donzelli è ciò che racconta.
Dr. Donzelli, for example, is what he's telling. Like he
Si impegna a mangiare bene,
he eats well.
si impegna a muoversi,
He moves, like he does physical activity.
A governare le sue emozioni.
He has a good emotional regulation.
E a donare il suo cuore
And
per
he
ciò che
gives
crede.
his heart in what he believes. Like
Questo già produce salute.
this already like is producing health.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, I see that there are new participants. I would like to remember that we are recording, so we will send you the recording of this meeting, also the slides of the speakers, and then we will share also this recording to other MEPs that can be here today attending this webinar. So if there are no other questions, I leave the floor to...
Thank you, Federico. Thank you for these opportunities for discussion and for opening our vision, our mind on what health and healthcare are really. My contribution today is to let you to know that in the STOA panel, that is a sort of a committee, a special committee, on science and the technologies options. So MEPs can commission studies, assessment. And in the last months, this panel, STOA panel, commissioned 2 studies very interesting, I think very interesting for us, for our interest group. The first one is about the pollution and the spread of COVID-19. It's a review that analyzed under 6,000 articles published up to May 2021, looking at the role of pollution and air quality factors in the transmission of SARS-CoV-2 and in the geographical differences in COVID-19 propagation. A body of evidence shows that chronic and short-term exposure to different fractions of aerosols and types of air pollution exacerbate symptoms, affects comorbidities, and increases mortality rates for respiratory diseases similar to COVID, but as well as for COVID-19. The second one study is about research and development, and the focus is on the possibility that a public infrastructure, European infrastructure, overcome market failures. So the title is European Pharmaceutical Research and Development could public infrastructure overcome market failure? I think so. So I will send the files to all of you, and I hope they will support our battle to improve the quality of life of as many citizens as possible. Thank you very much for this meeting, and see you soon. Bye.
this is the end of the meeting. I would like to thank all the participants for being here. And so I remember that we will send you all the information in your email address. And obviously we will take you update on the next activities of European Salus Network. I remember that you can see also our website, that is www.salusnetwork.eu. There is a multilingual website, and you can also, if there is no your language, you can share, you can translate in English. Okay, thank you so much to Milena Simeoni, that is the creator of European Salus Network, and to Alberto Donzelli, expert in public health, for these speeches, very interesting. And I can thank you also for this opportunity to share what we are doing. And so see you at the next meeting. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.